Hello and welcome. This is the CircuitPython weekly meeting for April 27th, 2026. It's the time of the week where we get together to talk about all things CircuitPython. I'm Scott and I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. CircuitPython development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so if you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting is hosted on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting typically happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, except when it coincides with a U.S. holiday, since our hosts are almost all U.S. based. In the notes doc, there's a link to a calendar you can view online or add to your favorite calendar app. We also send notifications about upcoming meetings via Discord. If you would like to receive these notifications, ask us to add you to the @CircuitPythonistas Discord role. There's a shared notes document that accompanies the meeting and recording. You can contribute to this document beforehand. The final notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use the doc to skip around and view parts of the video that interest you most. The meeting tends to run 30 to 60 minutes. After each meeting, we post a link for the next meeting's notes document to the CircuitPython dev channel on the Adafruit Discord. Check the pinned messages to find the latest notes doc so you can add your notes for the following meeting. If you wish to participate but cannot attend, you can leave your hug reports and status updates in the document for us to read during the meeting. This meeting is held in 5 parts. First is community news. This is a look at all things CircuitPython and Python on hardware in the community. It's a chosen set of items from our larger and more thorough Python on Microcontrollers newsletter. Next, after that, we'll go through the state of CircuitPython libraries in Blinka. This is a quantitative overview of the entire project. It's a chance to look at the project by the numbers, separate from our status updates. Third is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is an opportunity to highlight the good things folks are doing, taking the time to recognize the awesome folks in our community. Fourth is Status Updates. It's an opportunity to report on what we've been up to, take a couple of minutes and talk about what you've been doing in the last week since the last meeting and what you'll be up to over the next week. Fifth and final, we have In the Weeds. It's an opportunity for more long-form discussions. These discussions can come out of status updates or be something you've identified ahead of time as too long for status updates. And that covers how the meeting will go. I will switch tabs, take a timestamp, and continue on with community news. So, first up in community news is a happy birthday to MicroPython. So CircuitPython is based on MicroPython. And on the 29th, 2 days from now, we are celebrating MicroPython's 13th birthday. Damien, the creator of MicroPython, has accumulated some dates about when things happened. So April 29th, 2013, the first line of code written, but done in private before anybody else knew about it, and before it was even called MicroPython, was done April 29th, 2013. By September 17th of 2013, the first code running on a microcontroller on the very first prototype of the Pi board happened. October 2nd, 2013 is when Damien registered micropython.org. The 4th of October was the first commit in what is now the main repository. Finally, late December of 2013, the source code was posted publicly on GitHub. The following year, June 21st, 2014, they finished the Kickstarter. So MicroPython development was centered around a Kickstarter with the Pi board, and by June of the following year, they had finished fulfilling the rewards for the first Kickstarter. Not noted here, but they did do a second Kickstarter for ESP32 support. And then fast forward to this year, April 7th, just earlier this month, they released MicroPython version 1.28. So happy birthday, MicroPython. Next up on this is CircuitPython 10.2 was released, 10.20 I should say, to be specific. It is a minor revision of CircuitPython and a new stable release. There's a link to the blog and the release notes. Thank you, Foamy Guy, for dropping them in the chat. Highlights of this release, as put together by Dan. There's a new audio tools .speed changer, which I think actually is not actually in audio tools. I think it's somewhere else. But there's a new speed changer class that allows you to change the playback speed of audio, which is cool. There's a new QSPI bus support for display I/O. So this is for displays that have 4 data lines, similar to a 4 data line flash. There have been stability improvements regarding the USB SD card handling. Dan merged in MicroPython 1.27, which was the latest when Dan started. The ESP IDF has been updated to 5.5.3, and then many additions have been done in 10.2 to the Zephyr port, including simulated hardware testing that is also now being done via the Zephyr port. So that's in CircuitPython 10.2. Next up, we have some notes about upcoming CPython features. So CPython is a version of Python for desktop computers. And they just point out that there are transformative new Python features are coming in Python 3.15. In addition to lazy imports and an immutable frozen dict type, the new Python release will deliver significant improvements to the native JIT compiler and introduce a more explicit agenda for how Python will support WebAssembly. And there's a link there from InfoWorld. Next up, timestamp. Jumping Jerboa, which is a transfer a mouse and keyboard to another computer. This project is a combination of Python and CircuitPython scripts to transfer mouse and keyboard of your computer to another computer. A Raspberry Pi Pico is used as a USB HID mouse and keyboard. And there's links there. Next up, MicroPython on LiteX has been refreshed and enhanced. The original copy of this talked about the LiteX port of MicroPython, but I wanted to make it clear that this is actually a fork of MicroPython. It's been refreshed and enhanced with new peripheral support. It's also been rebased onto the latest version of MicroPython. So this is a version of MicroPython that is maintained by the LiteX folks. LiteX is a system for putting soft peripherals and CPUs together into a soft system on a chip that runs on FPGAs. So that's a cool project, and it's neat that they're keeping up to date with MicroPython as well. Okay, last up, newsletter details. So so this is where these articles came from. The Python on Microcontrollers weekly newsletter is a CircuitPython community-run newsletter emailed every Monday. The complete archives are available at adafruitdaily.com/category/CircuitPython. It highlights the latest Python on hardware-related news from around the web, including CircuitPython, Python, and MicroPython developments. If you want to contribute your own news or project, email cpnews@adafruit.com, and we appreciate all of the contributions. And with that, let's move on to the next section. Next up, we have the state of CircuitPython libraries in Blinka. This is a kind of objective view of like the health of CircuitPython broadly and like the core components of that. CircuitPython core, the libraries that run on top of that, and then also Blinka, which provides that layer to CPython. So first, let's do overall. Overall, we had 20 pull requests merged from 7 different authors. Some infrequent contributors are Darren Rich, Kyle Moore, Mikey Sklar, and Jerry Needell. So thank you to all those infrequent authors. We had 5 reviewers, so including Blitzcity DIY, who I think is kind of like off and on reviewing. So thank you to everyone there. We had 15 closed issues by 6 people and 2 open by 2 people. So we have a number of folks involved as well. And we closed way more issues this time than we opened. So that's awesome too. Next up, I'll go over the numbers for the core. So within the core, we had 8 pull requests merged from 4 different authors, including Kyle Moore. We had 2 reviewers, myself and Dan. And I should say Foamy Guy was also a contributor to the core. So thank you to those folks. We have 25 open pull requests, which is right at our limit of, or our goal of staying on a single page. And many of those have been kind of like lost and forgotten. So those are worth revisiting. It's a great way to get started if people want, especially if there's particular hardware. A lot of these are board support things that people could add support for. So check those out. Next up, issues-wise, we had 5 closed issues. This is within the core. 5 closed issues by 4 people, 1 open by 1 person, so we're down a few within the core. We have 860 open issues. We have 7 active milestones. This has changed a little bit since 10.1 is pretty much done. So we have 3 open issues on 10.2x. So these could come out in like a 10.2.1, 10.2.2, that sort of thing. We have many open issues under 10xx. We have 115. So Dan and I started looking at those, but haven't gotten through them all. But that's kind of where we're looking first when we're picking some more stuff up. And I should say that these milestones, we use these for prioritization for Adafruit funded folks, but if folks do want to get involved into CircuitPython and pick something up that has been marked long term, which is our bucket for things we're not going to do soon, feel free to take a look at that as well. We have 0 issues not assigned to milestones, so we're keeping up to date on triage. And with that, I'm going to ask Tim to cover the numbers for the libraries.
All right, thank you, Scott. This section does cover all the CircuitPython libraries, which are hosted on GitHub under 2 main bundle repositories. We have the Adafruit library bundle, which has 393 libraries in it right now. And there is the community library bundle with 176 libraries in it for a total of 569 libraries right now that support various things on CircuitPython hardware. Over the past week, we had 5 pull requests merged by 4 authors, echoing a couple names that Scott mentioned. Thanks to Darren Rich, Mikey Sklar, and Jerry Needell for some PRs this week in Library World. We had 4 reviewers. Thanks Liz, Scott, Dan, and myself for some reviews this week. All of the PRs that were merged were brand new, just 1 day old. That leaves us with 36 PRs that are open still. The oldest one of those is a draft that's at 1,348 days. Newest one is 2 days. Issues-wise, we had 2 issues closed by 2 people. 1 issue opened up by 1 person, leaving us with 773 open issues. And there are 2 of them right now currently that are labeled as good first issues. You can find those 2 as well as the rest listed over at circuitpython.org/contributing, which is a website where you should head if you're interested in getting involved in CircuitPython. If you're interested in reviewing, when you first load that page, that's where you'll be taken as a list of PRs that are waiting review. So you can click through the link to GitHub, read up on what the PR is, take a look over the code for syntax, spelling, logic, anything like that, and just leave a comment there on GitHub letting us know what you found. If you have the hardware for it, even better, you can test it out on there and include information in your comment about what you found when you tested it out, what versions you used, all of that sort of good stuff. If you get comfortable with that process, you like to join our official review team on GitHub, we can work with you to add you to that. If you like to start contributing some of your own code, you can also do that from the same page. If you click over to the issues link instead of PRs, you can find a list of open issues, which are things that either need fixed or new features that people want to have added or new examples or stuff like that. You can work through those similarly, click through to GitHub, kind of read up on what's there, and then you'd be submitting your own PR to resolve those. We have Learn guide to help folks out with Git and GitHub. If you're new to that sort of stuff, we have a guide pointing you through how to use it to contribute to CircuitPython and the libraries. We also have folks who are happy to help you out here on the Discord. If you just come and say hi, let us know what you're up to. If you're having any kind of trouble, we'd be happy to help you out. I will leave you with updated libraries. The UC 851D and the Yodo player had updates, and then I'll throw out as well, there was actually also a patch. So lots of libraries had updates this week, especially if anyone watches the bundles. There's a big release, but it is mostly innocuous. It was just syntax updates for the new version of Rough. And that's where we're at with libraries. Thanks.
Thank you, Foamy Guy. All right, last up, last core piece to the CircuitPython story is Blinka. Blinka is our compatibility layer for the CircuitPython APIs, allowing all of these libraries that Tim just talked about to run on both CPython, on Linux single-board computers, and on MicroPython. So Melissa does most of that work. and had 7 pull requests merged from one author. This is Maker Melissa's PyClaw, and then Melissa's been doing the reviews for that. There are 16 open pull requests. There were 8 closed issues by 1 person and 0 open by 0 people, so burning through issues. Good job, Melissa. 85 open issues, and the number of supported boards for Blinka is currently 174. And that's it for the state of CircuitPython and libraries. I'll go on to Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance for us to say thanks to folks in the community for the work that they're doing. I will start and then go down the list of folks in the notes doc. I should just say that if you're unable to make the meeting, you're still more than welcome to add notes to the notes doc, and I'll read them off here. So I'll go first. For me, hug to Foamy Guy for the last minute deep dive hosting the same day where I discovered that I was going to stay home with a sick kid. So thank you very much for that. Next up is Dan.
Hi. So thanks also to Foamy Guy Tim. I was having trouble doing the native sim build on Zephyr, and Tim had some different problems, and together we kind of worked out what was really going on. And also, Tim had a certain problem which I did not show up for me, so that's also mysterious, and we'll continue to work on that, having to do with it, trying to run it under Ubuntu. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Dan. And last up is Foamy Guy.
All right. Yes. Thank you. I have a couple hard reports. One for Noe Ruiz for sharing a small GIF file that I used to test last week while I was on the stream. This was very helpful because I was coming up empty on GIFs that were small enough to fit in the limited RAM on the device I was using. Noe sent me a really small, nice little blinking heart, which was the perfect test. So thanks for that. Also on Discord, I2C Jack for tips while I was working on a Zephyr board def. Thanks to them for coming to drop some help while I was working on Zephyr stuff. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. That's it for Hug Reports. Next up, let's do status updates. This is a chance for us to say what we've been working on in the past week and what we're planning on working on in the coming week. Again, I will start and we'll do it just like before based on the notes doc. Okay, so I've been in a bit of a hardware rabbit hole. Kind of in my previous Adafruit life, I did some PCB design, but it's never been something I do kind of like a lot. But I have 2 main goals with why I'm in this hardware world. Is one, I want to get more experience designing for the ESP32P4 so that we can use it with some Adafruit products. This is a new chip from Espresso that's finally becoming available, and I'm very excited about it. So I'm getting some experience there, and then I'm also I also want to do this ESP32P4 based hardware in the loop board. It's kind of like an Arduino Shield or a host board where you can take, my goal is to take lots of different form factors of dev kits and kind of like plug them into a standard form factor that we can then use in hardware in the loop testing, which is like automated testing that either we can run on a like per commit basis, or we could also tie into an agent and say, hey, make this thing work, and here's some hardware that you can use to test it. And the kind of like motivating factor and the reason I'm working on this is that I did the IDF6 update in a branch, and I changed some protomatter stuff, and I was like, oh, it'd be nice if I could just like tell it like, okay, test protomatter, like RGB matrix across all of these different ESPs, go. And so that's kind of like my motivating use case of like, I want to have one of every ESP chip hosted by this hardware in the loop board, so I can just say, okay, test it across all of these things all at once. It's something that we've wanted to do for the last 10 years on this stuff, and it's just like the benefits have switched because now we can tie this into LLMs, and so yeah, now's the time. So where am I in hardware land? I ordered my P4 GPIO minimal design. Just realized I had to like okay something from JLC, so hopefully they'll keep working on that. And now I'm working on the hardware in the loop version, which is like ideally this self-contained board that you'll be able to solder some headers to and then get plug in your board into. So that's what I'm working on. Dan, next up.
All right. So as mentioned, I released CircuitPython 10.2.0, which had a variety of fixes in it, and also importantly included an ESP-IDF update and a merge from upstream MicroPython. So there are a bunch of bugs that are in 10.2.0 that we sort of deferred fixing to get 10.2.0 out sooner. So it's not that we're not working on them, it's just, or that we wanted to wait. We didn't really want to wait because we'd like to be able to have start doing development on like a 10.3 something that has a bunch of more difficult changes in it, like the ESP-IDF6 update and other things that might take longer to finish. So we're 10.2.0, even though it's sort of like not a big change from 10.1.4, it was worth doing. So I will, sort of in respect to that, I'm going to do like a 10.3.0 alpha 0 or 1 soon, so that there'll be some dev release to download that has the latest pull requests in it, and try to do those pretty regularly. And mostly I've been working for several days now on a kind of a long-standing bug that causes ESP32C6 to crash when doing some Wi-Fi operations. Turns out it doesn't really have to do with Wi-Fi. It has to do with memcopy, which is a low-level routine that that Wi-Fi is using to copy some stuff in the web workflow back. But memcopy is used all over the place. So it's sort of weird that this bug has occurred. It did appear at some point when we changed around which version of memcopy we were using to use the ESP-IDF one instead of a slower one that MicroPython provides. So in trying to debug this, I did a bunch of checks. I asked 2 different LLMs for help debugging this. They were mostly helpful. They came up with some theories, some of which were not kind of off the wall, or something, some others which are better. But mostly they save a lot of time when I want to like make some change and then test it again. And in particular, also making like a small reproducible change, because I can reproduce this easily in CircuitPython, but it's very hard to submit a bug report to ESP-IDF that says, okay, in this huge program, if you make this tiny change, because it could be many things that have to do with us rather than with ESP-IDF. So I have a much smaller test program that I'm trying to get consistently fail. And the problem might be a configuration problem, build configuration problem on our side, or it might have to do with some really obscure thing having to do with cache line boundaries and misaligned memory copies, which are kind of rare but might show up when we in certain calls to memcopy. So I'm trying to get a simplest example running in that case.
My bets are in build configuration problem.
It's probably yes, because it seems so unlikely that nobody else would have found this problem. But I think we're happening upon the cache line problems because of the build configuration or something like that. So the other thing that was kind of fun is that my regular dev machine was an Ubuntu 24.04 machine. I copied the whole disk off to another drive, and then I updated the main drive to a clean Ubuntu 26.04, which just came out last Thursday. And it really works fine for development. I haven't had any problems. It's been less of a hiccup than between 22.04 and 26.04. So that's really good. I think that says something about the maturity of Ubuntu and the Debian thing that it's built on. And the only thing that I've changed is actually I'm trying some new desktop stuff, because I got tired of my old desktop having the same bugs for a couple of years. But I've already updated the building CircuitPython guide to say, yeah, you can use 2604 also. That's, and I think there may be, maybe I said there are even kind of no changes you need to make, but it's simple.
Great.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks for the update, Dan. All right, last up is Foamy Guy.
All right. I have. Last week, I ran the patch finally for, ran it with Adabot, but this was to update the rough version in all of the libraries. Thanks again to Tektrick. I think I've hug reported Tektrick a couple weeks. So I ran this patch, and it updated the version of rough, which caused new failures in some libraries because they changed around which rules are applied by default or how the rules work, different stuff like that. So I ran the patch, fixed all of the issues, all the failures that it caused, and while I was working on this, updated a few things inside of Adabot in a branch that I was working on a PR to kind of facilitate this process of splitting up the patch. So we've used this Adabot patch several times, but in the past it was always sort of a one single shot operation. You run the patch and it kind of does everything, commits and pushes all at once. And I, for this one, updated it to split it up so that I can do those in parts. I can run the patch, I can make some more manual changes, which in this case were the fixes to get rough back to patching, back to passing, I should say, on those libraries. And then afterwards, I can go and commit and push those changes. And so that worked out pretty well. There were a few tweaks to make while I was using it, but it was good to be able to actually test it and figure that stuff out and get it fixed. Last week, I also wrote a guide for using this project called Intercept on the Raspberry Pi. It's like a radio signals intelligence sort of web application platform. You can listen to airplanes and ships, and then like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and ham radio and a few other sources with a USB SDR, and you can record stuff and save it in a database, do all kinds of interesting stuff to analyze it. In CircuitPython land, in the Zephyr port, I enabled GIF I/O and storage modules in the core last week, and I started working on a Metro RP2350 board def. That one needs a little bit of troubleshooting still. It does not boot when I use that board def, but I did at one point accidentally flash it with the Pico 2 image, and it does boot on that one, so I know that it's possible to get it to work. I just need to work on the actual RP2350 one. I think one of the things I'm going to do to troubleshoot that is run Zephyr by itself on that Metro 2350, because there's already an upstream board def for it, but I want to run that and make sure that it does work and that I don't see the same thing I'm seeing when I try the CircuitPython one. So I'll try that, and then I think ultimately it will just be probably tweaking some of the offsets in the flash, because that's the main difference between it and the Pico 2 one, which does work. So I'll chase that a little bit further this week. And then the last thing that I worked on was over the weekend a little bit. I threw Claude kind of down this slight rabbit hole of implementing audio bus I/O I2S in. We have I2S out, and we have, I think, is it PDM microphone in, but we did not previously have I2S in CircuitPython. And I was kind of like, wondered how hard it would be, and had it write up a plan, and the next day had it implement some of the code and work on a little bit more, and ended up with successfully working implementation under the Espressif port. So that one uses, I think, the IDF internally. And I've been testing that on a Sparkle motion. I have successfully gotten it to save to a WAV file. In fact, just earlier this morning before the meeting, I kind of rigged up very kind of oddly, I rigged up the Sparkle motion with a SD card Featherwing. Not necessarily intended to go together, but it turns out it can work, and I was using that to record a little bit of a longer audio file to the SD card, which was cool. I was able to record 30 seconds, which I couldn't do without the SD card, so I'm able to kind of test that, and that is working now. And I also hooked up audio reactive stuff, so I know the Sparkle motion in particular, it's made for NeoPixels. That's kind of its bread and butter, especially with WLED and X lights and stuff like that. And one of the things that those are used for a lot is audio reactive stuff. So I put together some examples that listen on the microphone and then dance the NeoPixels based on that. And I was even able to, I was a little surprised that this board was able to handle it, but I guess the ESP32 is pretty powerful in there. I was even able to use Microlab and run FFT, so it can split up to 3 different NeoPixel strips, and it can use different frequencies from the audio to play different animations on different strips. So it can create some pretty cool effects. I'm excited to finish up the implementation, test out the Raspberry Pi port, which I have actual microphone breakouts coming so that I can hook those up to a Raspberry Pi device instead of an Espressif one. And then once I kind of confirm everything's actually working, I'll get that cleaned up and PR'd. So cool stuff, I think, though, to be finally getting that ability to use those nicer microphones.
Right, and the Raspberry Pi implementation already existed, right?
Not to the best of my knowledge, but I can't say that I looked around super hard.
I think Cooper might have already started on this.
Okay.
I mean, it's great. Whoever gets it finished is great. I think it was using like PIO.
Yeah, that's where I ended up as well, was PIO. It kind of modeled it off of the I2S out scripts.
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest is put it in a new module.
Okay, instead of audio bus IO?
Yeah, I'm regretting having audio bus IO have those 2 things in it. It would be better to just have it separate. Just so that like the SAMDs that have audio bus IO just don't have I2S in.
Do you think just I2S in by itself, or I2S IO or something?
I think just I2S in is fine. I mean, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be fancy or creative. It can be boring. It could be maybe like audio I2SN or something, right? Just so that it gets sorted with all the other audio ones.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Okay, yeah, I'll refactor it. That way, move it over.
Yeah, Claude should be able to do that easy.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Foamy Guy. And that's it for status updates. Next up is In the Weeds. I kind of started getting in the weeds there, talking to Tim about what he's working on, but we had no formal topics. So if you folks listening after the fact have questions about CircuitPython, this is the place you can put them, put your username. If you're in the meeting, we'll delegate to you to introduce the topic. Otherwise, we'll just cover it ourselves in the meeting and get back to you in the notes and through the meeting recording. But that's it. So let me switch back over. I'll take a time code and we'll wrap up. So this has been the CircuitPython weekly meeting for April 27th, 2026. Thank you to everybody who participated. If you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, and those of us that work on CircuitPython for Adafruit, consider purchasing hardware from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com. The video of this meeting will be released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit, and the podcast, the audio from the video, will be made available on wherever podcasts are available. It will also be linked to from the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. You can visit adafruitdaily.com to subscribe to that. And let me just double check. I believe next week we have normal time. So next week's meeting will be held at the usual Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. It is held on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join anytime by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. If you want to be notified about the meeting and any changes to the time or day, you can ask to be added to the @CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. With that, thank you everybody. We hope to see you all next week. Bye.